If you're a fan of the podcast, it'd be surprising if you haven't heard me talk about the fact that we have the most qualified staff in the Southeast. And for our 24-year history, that has been our brand to always hire somebody that has a degree in the field of either exercise science, exercise physiology, kinesiology, sport medicine, or athletic training. And we're very proud of that. But what you may not know is the history, the history of how many trainers have worked at Personal Edge or had a chance to have a former staff member actually come on the podcast. Today we're going to cover the brand of training of hiring the most qualified staff members in the Southeast with Cathy Fuller, our first trainer we ever hired, today on the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast. Good day and welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. Speaking on, it's actually one of my favorite topics. You know that, about talking about our staff. And I've got a guest with me on today. I want to introduce the first trainer that ever, outside of myself, that worked at Personal Edge Fitness. And visiting us here today, Dr. Cathy Fuller. Cathy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning. I'm glad to be here.
And I'm not sure, I love the way she does that with such a straight face, because Cathy is one person that does not lie, but that might have been a little white lie because I grabbed her at last minute to actually do this podcast, and truth be known, and so she's doing this with a slightly twisted arm, but I appreciate you being here either way. So before we get into that, I want to tell you how to get in touch with the show if you have any questions about this podcast or any others, or as we got some after doing the muscle development podcast that we did a few podcasts ago, which I appreciated your questions. If you have any questions about dispelling the myths of health, fitness, and wellness, those questions that I get on a daily basis, got one yesterday at a Board of Advisors meeting, please reach out to us at area code 251-278-3343. That's 251-278-EDGE. You can also reach me at Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com. Personaledgefitness.com, of course, is our website. You can contact us that way. You can also contact us via Facebook. Some of you may be watching us through Facebook right now, which is Personal Edge Fitness. Hit me up on X at Team PE if you are so inclined. I talk all the time about our brand, and this is an unlicensed field. That's something that I'm actually torn about that. I'm torn about it being an unlicensed field. And the reason being is that any Tom, Dick, Harry, or Jane can call themselves a personal trainer with certification, without a certification, with a degree, without a degree. It doesn't matter. It's unlicensed. And so that bothers me, but I'm irked about it. I'm kind of okay with it. Actually, I'm irked about it because of that. I'm kind of okay with it because I'm not a huge fan of the U.S. government being involved in anything I do. But in order to set us apart, we've always we require at least a minimum of a bachelor's in exercise science, physiology, kinesiology, sport medicine, athletic training as a trainer. Only the good Lord would have known that on my first hire, I would have hit it out of the park, because Dr. Fuller is the most qualified staff member we've ever had at Personal Edge Fitness. So, Cathy, tell us a little bit, if you would, about what got you into this field. And what was your passion for it? And then a little bit about your education, a little bit about your background.
Sure. I'll kind of try to sum it up, but it's been a roundabout journey to get where I am. I started out as an English and physical education teacher. I have a bachelor's degree in English with a minor in physical education, and then I took my Bachelor of Education separate from that and started teaching. So I taught middle school and high school for a while.
Right.
Then I decided to go back and get my master's degree.
Right.
And at that time, I was working as a physical education elementary teacher, and then as the assistant director of a hospital-based wellness center in Jackson, Mississippi.
Wow, okay.
So I finished my master's degree, kept kind of working in the fitness field for a little while, decided that I would like to teach at a university. So pretty much to do that, you have to get your PhD.
True.
I had the opportunity to meet a wonderful lady who was a department chair at University of Southern Mississippi.
Right.
And she hired me as a grad assistant, which was great, a teaching grad assistant. So I started my PhD there and taught classes, became the director of their kinesiotherapy program, which is kind of a rehab type program, mostly with the Veterans Administration.
Right, okay.
And so finished my PhD, worked at University of Southern Mississippi for a few years, got pregnant and had a son, and decided that driving an hour and a half to work every day was a little challenging.
Just a bit.
Which then brought me to, we were living in Mobile at the time, so I started looking for a job in a fitness-related field, which brought me to Garrett.
So, and that was we're talking about how long ago this was. That was 2000.
Yeah.
24 years ago now, and so I love to make the joke about that. One of the only people that we didn't get on Indeed or Monster, or because those things just didn't exist. I want to say it was an ad in the paper.
It was.
Yeah, it was.
I saw an ad in the paper, and I came in and interviewed, and I had to bring my son with me because he wasn't in daycare at the time.
I want to say he was a year old.
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So that's how I keep up with how old Robbie is. Yeah. Is how old is Personal Edge, and Robbie's 1 year older than that. So, and the rest is history. So, but what a godsend. At the time, I had you're the first person I ever hired. I never hired anybody, and I had at the time we had a massage therapist that worked with us. I'd known him before we opened Personal Edge. But I knew in order to grow the business, I was going to have to bring in another trainer. And what a I'm not telling this just because she's sitting here. I would say this about her without Cathy sitting here, but what an incredible godsend, because we had 12 amazing years working together. And you were with us through, Lord, I mean, you were with us through the first expansion, growing the business itself, what have you. What do you remember? Think about this, but it may be nothing that I'm talking about right now, but the early days starting out, developing as your clientele built. I want to see it from your side. I have my memories, but I'm curious about your memories of it.
I think I was a little nervous starting out because I'd done, personal training a little bit and instructed students on it, but had not done it full time, and had been more in management and teaching aspects than really having my own clients. So I think I was concerned about how I would get new clients and how I would build my business. And the one thing that I really appreciated is that I didn't have to go out and find the clients, that you did a lot of the interviewing, and then you decided whether, it was a good fit. And then as we expanded and hired new trainers, you were looking at who was the best fit for that new client coming in. Right. So I really appreciated that. I think one of the things that stands out to me, this is not necessarily business related.
Now, I told you she'd have something different than I did, but please go ahead.
Was that I started working with you, and I think within a month you had a trip that you went on, and he left me with all of his clients. And some of these clients had been training with him for years, and I've been there a month, and I'm training these guys that are really pretty heavy strength training guys, and I'm a pretty small girl, and so I know they were going, how the heck is she going to train me?
Okay,
so that's one of the things I remember the most about when I started.
You actually, believe it or not, I thought you would talk about something I hadn't thought about whatsoever. You actually are talking about something I was definitely going to bring up, and because it's something I'll never forget, because I heard the other ends of those stories, and they were hilarious. They were great. They were awesome in a good way, in a very good way. All right, let's go back now. That is as I've told this story before on the podcast, that I never really wanted my own facility. I never thought I was going to have my own facility. I was in a what I thought was a great situation. I was building clientele. I was working as a personal trainer, doing something that's very strange these days, and that is actually a career that is with the degree that I got, you know what I mean? And keeping that. So I was excited. And as I've told this story many times, the way Personal Edge started was the fact that I was thrown out of a facility in 1999, September 7th of 1999, trained 26 people, was thrown out that night, and actually ended up, looking back, being one of the greatest days of my life. I had no idea. And so, but before that, that was in September. And we opened in, that was September of 1999. And we opened Personal Edge in June 5th of 2000. And well, by that September, we had planned, being my wife and I, had planned on a 2-week vacation to Australia with my brother and his wife. This is the longest trip I'd ever been on. So this is what Cathy's talking about. We didn't cancel it, and we're thinking I'm gonna have this facility built in 3 months. It took us 9 months to get it built, and we were just going crazy. And then not only bless her heart, like a deer in headlights. I was running 42 clients, training 20 to 21 people a day, and I was going to have to dump this all on this poor new trainer. And you remember how paranoid I was.
You were. And you were like, if the building burns down, call me.
And I'll never forget the first email that you got, 'cause I had a phone or had a handheld that I could actually plug into a phone cord and get email. And I checked it that day, and it was after the first day you said everything went well, the place didn't burn down. I'll never forget, that's what you told me in the email. And so, and it took me about a week or so into that vacation before I just finally relaxed, everything's okay. All right.
I don't blame you.
Clients, from the client's point of view, first thing, what during that time when you were training those people, how did it actually go? That after about a week or so, did it start to get a little better? Or
yeah, I mean, I loved it. It was challenging because it was clients that I'd met, but I didn't know them very well, and so you would left me notes about each of the clients and what they were capable of. So, but it was challenging because I was like, I'm going to make these guys work out. I'm going to make them work hard so that when Garrett comes back, they're not going to go, she was wimpy. We don't want to work out with her anymore.
Other side of the story and exactly what happened. No kidding. I can mention Jim's name. I'm not going to mention his last name, but you know what I'm talking about. And I never forget when they had clients telling me, and Jim was one of them. They came up and told me, Garrett, we had lived through the transition with you. We knew how nervous you were. The grand opening party that you had all came. We knew you'd been looking forward to this vacation. You've been through 9 months of difficulty. We were gonna play with this little girl while you were gone, so you weren't worried, and we weren't gonna quit or anything. And when I got back, how many clients told me, "Gosh, we're so glad you're back. She was killing us." And that started that event. It's amazing we're talking so much about it. That event started so many things. The one thing it started was the fact that started the running joke around here that you want to really get beat up, get one of the female trainers here at Personal Edge. And I'm telling you, they'll really throw it on you. And we learned it from that, because from then on, Bernie, I'm not going to lose the last name, whenever I'd go out of town and you subbed in for him, he wouldn't show up.
That's right. He would take a day off.
He would take a day off. So much so when I went to Orlando one time, I used my cell phone to call him and ask him, "Hey, you coming in today?" "Yeah, I'm coming in today." And he was coming in to see you, and he got so mad at me about that. But Jim said that Jim was the last client you had in the evening, and he was going to walk out the door with you. And he was thinking, you're leaving, and I want to make sure, watch out for her. And in this parking lot, you never know what's out here.
I remember that.
And he said he stuck around to walk you out. He told me afterwards, he goes, "I don't know why I was doing that, because if I ran into somebody, Cathy would have just said, 'Get behind me, Jim.'"
I wouldn't have. It was really sweet of him to walk me out.
I thought it was very nice of him. But also what we learned from that time, and that actually spun into what we're doing now, is that's the first time I lost a client to another trainer, Greta.
Oh, I'd forgotten that.
Yeah. And when I got back, this client who'd been with me, our families knew each other well. We'd known he'd been with me for a long time. Told me, he said, "Garrett, I would rather work with Cathy." And I have to tell you, the first time that hit, I was like, "Oh gosh, you kidding me?" Whatever.
Yeah, it does hurt.
But we found out, you and I learned, and we learned that with Iris, Albert. We learned it. We learned that one thing that you sometimes you have a better fit, absolutely. But the other thing is that Cathy and I, as well as we know each other, we train different.
Yep.
And we used to work out together or whatever. But you have a different style. I have a different style. And that's where we started noticing that when we would go out of town and our clients were forced to work with another trainer, how much they learned, how much we learned from it, which evolved into the system which we run now.
Right. It's what you do now is really different, because our clients would get really used to just the one person training them. And I think that's the way most facilities run today.
Yes.
But you and I, and when we hired new trainers, or when you hired new trainers, even though they were our clients, it wasn't a sense of you can never train them, or you can't see my exercises that I'm doing because they're all mine and I know the most. We never felt like that. No. But our clients had that connection to us,
absolutely,
which made it hard when we did go away.
Absolutely.
And I think now, talking a little bit more about, and you might want to talk about it because I'm not here full time anymore, where they're seeing different trainers, it's easier on them when somebody's away for a little while.
And on top of that, and you and I picked up on this early, and we had a hard time convincing our clients of it, but we were very glad when they got a chance to work with somebody else, Because any trainer out there, again, I've said it many times, we have the most qualified staff in the Southeast. Average tenure of a client, 6.5 years. Average tenure of a staff member, 7 years. These are unheard of numbers in the industry. But even with the best staff, you're working with the same person over and over again. Truth is, you're going to get into a rut.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if any trainers out there, no, I'm so amazing and I'm going to change everything up. No, I'm telling you, you're not. You're going to get in a rut, and you're not going to come up with every exercise.
Nope.
And so they're going to. How many times did you take a day off or something and have Rob or have Gary or have me or somebody else train them? And you're asking your clients, you know, how did it go? And they're telling you, gosh, I did this, that, and the other. I've never done before. And you thought, I never thought about doing that, you know?
And then you just incorporate it.
Period.
Yeah.
And the clients benefit from the variety, which creates the system that we have now. No client works with one trainer, and they get the benefit of the knowledge of the entire staff. Now, you know, you said something a second ago, though, about, and that's amazing. All of that came out of that one vacation, but and it was a great trip too. By the way, it's coming full circle. I'm going back to Australia in August. But you've done something that I don't think we've ever had. Yeah, we haven't seen another trainer do this. We've had over 30 trainers work at Personal Edge. You're the only person that has come back and has subbed in, and this is 2 summers in a row, maybe 3, but throughout our history when you've been in town. And Cathy's in town. This is fantastic. Not only do we have great trainers, but our subs have a PhD in kinesiology, and you've been able to work in this environment and see that. And so how has that been? Has it been?
It's cool. I miss the personal training aspect of the contact with the clients,
right,
and friendships that you develop and things
sure,
like that. So that's really nice to come back to. I teach full-time at Regis College. I'm going to put a plug in.
No, I was going to tell you, please tell everybody what you're doing now. That's what I think is amazing. I definitely want to talk about that.
So I the department chair for health and fitness studies at Regis College, a small Catholic university outside of Boston.
With a long tenure, though. I mean,
yes, it's been around a long time. I shouldn't say it's small. It's a full-size university. Our undergraduate program isn't huge, but that's what I teach in. I love it. We have exercise science, sport management, nutrition, and therapeutic recreation as majors.
Right.
Minors in each of those, and athletic coaching as well.
Awesome.
So,
and tell me your position again.
So I'm the department
chair. That's what I've told people that. And I want to make sure I'm saying that correct. That you are the department chair of Regents College, which, again, and acts as a sub for us. This is awesome. This is fantastic. So,
but it's fun to come back because I'm training my exercise science students in personal training. You know, we have exercise assessment, exercise programming, exercise for special populations.
Right.
Those are just 3 of the courses.
Yeah.
And so getting a chance to come back and, you know, stress my mind in a little bit different way, coming up with new exercises for clients that might have a specific limitation, or they might have a back that's hurting or something like that. It's fun, and it's intimidating to me to come back because I don't do this full time anymore. So I'm looking at what the other trainers are doing, and I'm listening to them, and then I'm thinking, okay, what can I do that's outside the box a little bit to help this client, improve a little bit better, or to share something that they might not be familiar with.
Well, and she's being very humble because I appreciate what you're saying. I mean, you are working with incredible staff, and we have grown and whatever, and you're coming in and saying, I'm intimidated. And then when she leaves, we have clients just rave about their training session. I'm not telling that to make you feel good, but yeah, I mean, how could they not? I mean, the tenure of time that you were here at Personal Edge, you can hit the ground and within a few minutes get caught up on a client and train them with no problem. But we get glowing reports about that, and we absolutely love it. The also, I'm not I don't think it's a surprise to. It's not a surprise to 2 of us. Maybe a surprise to some people that don't know this, but I still think one day that Cathy Fuller will be full time on this staff or back on a more regular basis, and I've never given up on that. You know that. You know that. No offense to Regents by any means, and we're very glad to have you. I'm very glad to see you, and very glad to have you for the short time that we do. And why are you back in Mobile? I think that's a neat thing to share.
So, I've been at Regis for 12 years, almost 13 years actually.
Right.
And my husband is now back in Mobile. So wherever he has been coaching is where we've called home. So we've had long distance relationships for a few years now.
Right.
But it works. And he is the head men's soccer coach at the United States Sports Academy.
My alma mater.
And so he's been in Mobile for a little over a year.
Right.
And so last summer I was home, and this summer I'm home. And whenever I have a break from school, I come back down. So and he comes up when he can to see me.
Right.
And so it's nice to be back together. And he and I are doing some soccer and fitness youth training this summer as well with some of the youth in the area.
Good. Great. Well, she's going to be, Cathy, if you're training with us, and also former clients that have met Cathy, she's going to be here with us for a few months, mostly afternoons.
Yeah.
We're working on a schedule right now to sub in and do some training. And also, as I just spoke to you about in my office, we've got our first contract intern. We have our first freshman summer intern here. We have a somewhat new exercise specialist. She's now been held with, you would think she's been here for years. But some of these people that have never had a chance to work with Cathy, have met Cathy, and also glean from your experience, which I greatly appreciate. I want to go back to your education real quick without going too long on the podcast. But something that I think is wonderful for regents and students of regents. I'm interviewing people right now. I interview people all the time, and a lot of students just coming out of school too. And one of the questions I always ask them is what are the professors training you for? What most of them are usually focusing on a career. If you're in poli-sci, a lot of instructors are training people to take the LSAT and go to law school. In exercise science, when I was coming out, it was cardiac rehab. That was the new buzzword, and everybody's going to train for cardiac rehab. And the surprising thing to me is what I'm seeing a lot of professors, I'm hearing from these students, is they're training the students to get their master's and then get their PhD and teach. And that's it. And I realize why it's happening. They haven't worked in the field. The reason I'm saying I think it's so great for regents, more than 12 years, because you did work before you get into personalized. You've actually worked in the field.
Yeah.
You actually have experience of, if you want to make this a career, it can be done. And I hope that you're able to impart that to your students. I would guess you were.
Yeah, I think so. And we have students that are pursuing many different tracks, but some go the sport performance and conditioning.
Right.
Some do the personal training. Some really want to be occupational therapists or physical therapists.
Sure.
Exercise science is a good track for that.
Right.
In fact, physical therapy, a lot of students used to go the biology track, but
Right.
exercise science gives them more hands-on
Sure.
practice with it.
Sure.
But I think being out in the field, same as with teaching, when you are a teacher educator,
Right.
it helps if you have done some teaching.
No,
you know
absolutely.
So you know what
Absolutely.
the classroom's like.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so strength and conditioning for athletes or personal training for individuals that are healthy, and then personal training for individuals that have limitations.
Right.
Those are specific classes that we offered. They're not called personal training
because
it's wider
Right.
than that.
Right.
But we have the students making up programs, and they actually train faculty and staff.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. Some hands-on experience. Yep. As I've shared with you, where did I learn this career? And I learned it in my mentorship. And that's why we have an internship here. That's why I think that's so valuable. And so the fact they're getting some hands-on experience, that's wonderful. And I'm not surprised that that's coming from who I know is the chair of the department. And seriously, I mean, and the fact that no offense to, thank God that we've got people that have the passion like you do for teaching. I mean, we don't hire anybody that doesn't have a degree. But on top of the fact that you have an experience teaching, the fact that you have actually worked in the field, I think it makes a tremendous difference. So.
Yeah, I think it does too. And my other exercise science professor is, his background is in athletic training.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah, so
awesome.
we have
awesome.
a good combination, and he's done EMT as well.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
So it's a good combination.
And I love that. We haven't had an EMT. I've interviewed some people that were EMTs, and I always wanted to kind of have a kinesiologist who had been an EMT on staff. But you were here when we hired our first. In fact, you were the connection for our first athletic trainer we hired, who was Rob Longhurst.
Yep.
And I talked to him just the other day, though. Fantastic. Gosh, it wouldn't be awesome to have him, back here playing with us. So, but then you, of course, were here when Well, actually, you were here for Gary's first stint, and then after you left, well, Gary was here then, and so and I'm glad you have that. That's fantastic to have both of those, the kinesiology side, and then have athletic training teaching these students. And that's brilliant. That's fantastic. So, what else do you have to add? Did I cover everything? I didn't thoroughly embarrass you.
No, you didn't. And and you could probably tell at the beginning I was a little bit nervous, but it kind of calmed down since then. But I think you've covered everything.
Great. Well, as you can tell by my excitement, I'm so glad to have you here, even for the short time. I'm not giving up on the long term. Definitely not so. But if you have any questions, listen, I'm going to tell you to get in touch with us. But Cathy actually has an email address with us. If you have any questions for her, if you don't mind.
Sure.
At Cathy, Cathy, at personalagefitness.com. You can also reach out to me at Garrett, Garrett, at personalagefitness.com. Call us at 251-278-3343 if you have any questions. You can contact us website, personalagefitness.com, Personal Age Fitness Facebook page, on X at Team PE if you are so inclined. We are very, very, very proud of our brand. Our brand actually sets up the stage for our culture, and our culture is why everybody stays. But the reason for that, it starts with the staff, and it starts with having such a great staff. And I'm so wonderful to be and so proud that after 24 years, having somebody come back that was a former trainer of ours and still wants to be here, wants to be a part of this. And it's all a part of how we help you reach your level of wellness. Cathy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Even though you put me on the spot.
I don't mind at all. It didn't bother me whatsoever. And I hope to see you next time.